It's 9 a.m. in Warsaw. Welcome to World News here on TVP World. I'm Marie Cato. 2 days of talks between Ukraine, Russia and the United States aimed at ending Moscow's war on its neighbor have ended with the exchange of more prisoners, but there's been no word on a peace agreement. The two-day talks in Abu Dhabi concluded on Thursday with both sides conducting a major prisoner swap and agreeing to resume negotiations soon. 157 Ukrainians, 7 of them civilians, were returned home, while the same number of Russian soldiers were sent eastwards in the first such swap in 4 months. Heading into the talks, one of the key obstacles was Russia's demand for Ukraine to hand over land in the eastern Donbas region that Moscow does not control. The territory in question is a strategic barrier that could hold up future Russian advances. A diplomatic row has erupted between the U.S. ambassador to Poland, Thomas Rose, and the Speaker of the Polish Parliament, Włodzimierz Czarzasty, after the latter refused to endorse President Donald Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize. Jan Kennedy has more.
This is Włodzimierz Czarzasty, the Speaker of the Polish lower house and effectively the number 2 in Polish politics. On Thursday afternoon, the US ambassador to Poland, Thomas Rose, announced that Washington has decided to sever all contacts with him.
Effective immediately, we will have no further dealings, contacts, or communications with Marshal of the Sejm Czarzasty, whose outrageous and unprovoked insults directed against President Trump has made himself a serious impediment to our excellent relations with Prime Minister Tusk and his government. We will not permit anyone to harm U.S.-Polish relations nor disrespect Donald Trump, who has done so much for Poland and the Polish people.
Well, the reason for such a definitive step hasn't been clearly stated. Some say it comes after Czarzasty's decision not to endorse President Donald Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize.
I will not support the nomination of Donald Trump for the Nobel Prize because he doesn't deserve it. In my view, the creation of new platforms such as the so-called Board of Peace is illusory. What must be strengthened are the European Union, NATO, the WHO and our own capabilities. This is where our security lies.
Rose's statement sparked controversy in Poland, with Prime Minister Donald Tusk also weighing in.
Mr. Ambassador Rose, allies should respect, not lecture each other. At least this is how we, here in Poland, understand partnership.
But this is not Rose's first controversial remark about Polish affairs. Polish media recently reported that Rose had issued an ultimatum to the leader of Poland's opposition Law and Justice Party, Jarosław Kaczyński, to not include anti-Semite Grzegorz Braun and his party in any future governing coalition, since his inclusion would be unacceptable to the United States. Trump's remarks on NATO likewise caused controversy, sparking outrage in Europe. Comments Czarzasty said he had in mind while making his decision.
A different interpretation of history, like the participation of Polish soldiers in foreign missions, all of this leads me to conclude that I will not support President Trump's nomination for the Nobel Prize because he does not deserve it.
Czarzasty insists he'll stand firm on his decision. Not too long ago, Czarzasty and Rose appeared to be on good terms, photographed together during a Hanukkah celebration. For TVP World, Jan Kennedy.
In one of his most recent posts on X, the U.S. ambassador to Poland, Thomas Rose, rebuked Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk. Tusk defended Poland's parliamentary speaker for what Rose said were insulting remarks about U.S. President Donald Trump.
Mr. Prime Minister, I have nothing but the greatest respect and admiration for your lifetime of bold leadership and for your decades of contributions that strengthen the US-Poland relationship. You, sir, have truly been a model ally and great friend of the United States. And I know you agree that insulting and degrading President of the United States Donald Trump, the greatest friend Poland has ever had in the White House, is the last thing any Polish leader should do. As I'm sure you'll also know, I will always defend my president without hesitation, exception or apology.
The US foreign policymakers have, quote, a strange understanding of what being an ally means, said TVP World's Europe editor Marcin Zaborowski when commenting on Washington severing diplomatic ties with the Speaker of the Polish Parliament Włodzimierz Czarzasty.
Well, it's difficult to comment that without anything than astonishment that the ambassador of an allied nation really residing here in this country dares to address in those terms the Speaker of the House. The second highest person in this country. So that's certainly massively disrespectful. The people who are in charge of US foreign policy have a strange understanding of what being an ally means and have forgotten their manners, frankly. And this is not a 52nd state of America. This is a nation at Europe's center. Mr. Czarzasty comes from the formation who in the past strongly supported the United States in Iraq and Afghanistan. So, it was this country was under the leadership of the left, that these operations were approved, and Poland was absolutely major contributor in Iraq. I would expect for the current American administration to walk back from these remarks, frankly.
Lithuanian prosecutors are launching a human trafficking investigation into the recently released Epstein files, a trove of information and footage related to the convicted US sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. This comes following the Lithuanian president's request for a principled law enforcement investigation into the case. Officials from Vilnius are currently assessing the new information and cooperating with partners to work out the legal framework and future proceedings. Lithuanian media have reported the names of various Lithuanian models as potential victims. Figures from the world of art have also appeared in the newly released batch of files. Surviving victims of the abuse at the hands of Jeffrey Epstein and his collaborators have long called for the offenders to be brought to justice. In Poland, a special investigation team has also been called on account of potential Polish victims and potential Russian involvement into the offences, which may impact regional security. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer claims he has no reason to doubt former British ambassador to the United States Peter Mandelson's account of his relationship with the convicted paedophile Jeffrey Epstein prior to appointing Mandelson to the Washington Post. Starmer is under major pressure over the decision to make Mandelson Britain's envoy to Washington in December 2024, when his ties to the late US sex offender Jeffrey Epstein were already known. Files released by the US Justice Department last week include emails suggesting Mandelson had leaked government documents to Epstein.
And the answers given to those questions were intentionally intended to create the impression that Mandelson barely knew Epstein, deliberately to create that impression. I had no reason at that stage to think that was anything other than the truth, and therefore we proceeded. We found out what he was up to in the aftermath of the 2008 crash, when most of the government and most of the country was doing its level best to make sure people didn't lose their jobs, their livelihoods and their savings. And at that time, he chose to disclose sensitive secrets to Epstein, almost simultaneously as receiving them. And that is what I meant when I said earlier about the deceit and the standards that I stand for in public life. Yes, at the time I appointed him, I got answers from him which I believed to be true. He painted a picture of barely knowing Epstein. I didn't know that was lies at the time.
The first quarter of 2026 brings some exciting news from Poland's leading defense technology company, WB Group, which is eyeing a debut on the Warsaw Stock Exchange. Known primarily for its production of reconnaissance systems and loitering munitions, if the WB Group follows through, the company's IPO could prove one of the most promising defense listings in Europe. Laura Hazanoff reports.
Poland's leading defense technology company, WB Group, may be headed for the stock market. According to Bloomberg, WB Group has begun preparations for a potential initial public offering. The company has reportedly hired the global law firm White & Case to advise on the process.
This is one of our options. We still thinking regarding as one possibilities we can go, but no decision, nothing has changed in this respect. So no decision regarding an IPO has so far was made by WB Group.
In 2024, WB Group reported revenues of just under 700 million euros, more than double the previous year, and a net profit of around 177 million euro, up from roughly 54 million in 2023. These impressive numbers put the company among the most profitable firms in Poland, even compared with large, publicly listed names. WB's drone unit is one of Europe's largest manufacturers, producing reconnaissance systems like the Fly-Eye and loitering munitions from the Warmate family. Nearly 40% of WB Group's sales comes from exports, including licenses sold to the United States, Sweden and Malaysia. With Ukraine emerging as its most important operational market, WB has recently launched production inside Ukraine to support ongoing demand.
The presence of the WB Group in Ukraine isn't anything new. We have been operating there since 2014. That was when the first contracts were signed to supply Ukraine with Fly-Eye drones.
The war in Ukraine has also exposed the risks posed by drones, from surveillance to precision strikes, driving governments to rapidly increase defense spending and invest in new technologies.
And so our success rate, if the terms of loitering munition, is close to the 80%. If you compare to this reports regarding the American or German drones, that is much, much lower. So we are fully prepared for high demands from our customers.
At home, the company has secured multiple contracts with the Polish Army and Armament Agency for reconnaissance systems under multi-year framework agreements.
We signed a framework agreement for the purchase of 1,700 Fly-Eye drones. Today we are buying 52 units, which will be delivered by the end of the year in their latest version. The cost of this contract is about 24 million euro.
If it goes ahead, WB Group's IPO could mark one of the most promising defense listings in Europe. For TVP World, Laura Hazanov.
Russia has been attracting sub-Saharan Africans to join its military ranks in Ukraine with lucrative recruitment packages. What at first seemed like a decent employment opportunity has proven to be a nightmare. Moscow has little regard for the lives of its own citizens, let alone for the mercenaries who fight for it. Our Africa correspondent Sophia Bob brings us the details.
Videos of African mercenaries in Ukraine have been circulating on social media. For several months now, African soldiers have been recruited by Russia to fight on the front lines. These men are considered cannon foders according to various sources, including the Ukrainian ambassador in South Africa, Alexander Sherba. They are blustering Russian ranks while Moscow appears to be facing a sharp increase in casualties. One particular footage that was widely circulating online showed a black man in Russian military uniforms being threatened and humiliated. Russia has developed a recruitment network in several different sub-Saharan African countries. According to investigations, recruitment takes the form of attractive jobs offer and has spread in different countries where Russian paramilitaries are not present. The recruitment package may include an initial payment of about 2,300 euros upon signing a contract and a monthly salary that's between 2,300 euros and 2,500 euros. Health insurance is often included and, according to testimonies, the promise of a Russian passport for candidates and their immediate family. Military partnerships with Russia are common in Africa, especially in Central Africa, for both weaponry and soldiers. In the Central African Republic, for example, there is a scholarship program for military training, as well as in other countries in the continent. Between existing partnerships and recruitment networks, Russia is increasingly enlisting Africans to bolster its armed force. Sophia Ba, Dakar, Senegal, for TVP World.
And that's all for World News right now. We'll be back with you at 10 a.m. with more news and headlines. Goodbye.